Hey, what if I told you Fred Smith was a gambler, a lawbreaker? He didn't get along with his family, and he might have been a little bit egotistical, confident to a point where he was maybe over the top. Would you think that's somebody who you want to model yourself after? That you want to say, hey, I want to go in business and be just like that? Most people would say no. That's not what an entrepreneur is. That's not what you should do. You should go do business the right way. Well, today, I'm going to share with you some untold stories about Fred Smith and FedEx and how he made it happen. Let's see if you change your mind when we get to the end and we put it all together. Let's go ahead and get started. Hey, folks, I recommend Regis, where you get office space your way. Hey, welcome to a random podcast where we challenge the status quo and we empower people like you to think differently. Let's go ahead and dive in right now if I can tell you these tales that I've been holding for 20 years about Fred Smith. As I said earlier, he was a gambler. And a lot of us look at that as a negative thing. Well, what do you mean by gambler? Are you saying gambler in business? Was he taking risks? We're all risk takers when we go into business. I'm talking about he was a straight up gambler. And what do I mean by that? Well, Fred Smith had a period of time with his company where it wasn't doing too well at all. And everybody wanted his head. He went back to some investors that initially put money in. I believe he raised $80 million to begin with. These are people he knew from school. He went back to them and he had the audacity to say, hey, give me more money, even though we're losing $1 million a month. They basically, told him no, kicked him out. He begged, he did everything he possibly can do to squeeze out this money. And they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't do it. They kicked him to the curb. He had to take a flight back to Memphis. And at the airport, Fred decided, I'm not going home. I'm not going back to Memphis. Fred decided to hop a plane to Las Vegas. Yes, you know what I'm thinking. You know what I'm about to say. Guy said he's a gambler, right? Now, I don't know Fred's lifestyle. When I say he's a gambler, it's because of this story. I don't know if he gambled all the time. But, man, to get on a plane when you were supposed to go home to Memphis, to go to Vegas, to gamble is kind of like a little, I'm not going to call anybody insane. I'm just going to say that's way out there. He goes to Vegas, he gambles, and he wins enough money to take care of his payroll and all his obligations within that short period of time, even though the company was still bleeding. Now, come on, folks. Take some serious guts to go gamble and get Lady Luck to hand you the money because no one else would give it to you. So I'm going to ask you, are you a gambler? Are you willing to put it on the line like that? And I mean, really put it on the line and really take that chance. Would you have taken that plane to Vegas, or would you have just went home with your tail between your legs? I think it's a good thing that he was a gambler. If he wasn't a gambler, we wouldn't have FedEx. We wouldn't have overnight packages. So I applaud Fred Smith for being a gambler at that particular point. Now, if anyone has an addiction with that, I'm not supporting that and not making fun of that. But this was an extraordinary tale that a lot of people might not have been privy to. I said he might have been egotistical, borderline insane, over the top, confident to the point that you might be even cocky. Yeah, that was him too. Okay, so how was he that? Well, Fred Smith came up with the ideal of FedEx in 1965 when he was a student at Yale. It was a term paper. It wasn't a business plan. It was a term paper for a class in school. And the professor gave him a C on the term paper. A C. Okay, looking back, we go like, what? I guess he didn't see it, right? But no, the reason why he gave him a C, he says, oh, extraordinary ideal, well put together. Everything was excellent about it. However, I cannot give you anything higher than a C because it's not feasible. You have to write about something that's feasible, not something that's fantasy. Think about that. This professor, someone of respect, someone he probably looked up to, someone of authority, said, hey, it's not feasible. So I can't even give you an A off of that term paper. That's a good idea, but it's not feasible. Of course, we know Fred didn't stop there. We know Fred didn't give up. If that was the case, we wouldn't have FedEx. So my question to you, how many so-called professionals or mentors or people you look up to in your life that are telling you, hey, it's not feasible? Oh, that's a good idea, but it'll never work. Oh, you're such a dreamer. Oh, how are you going to make it happen? It's impossible. How many of those people are you allowing to stop you? So maybe you need to be over the top, insane confidence, just like Fred. Sometimes you got to go there. Sometimes you got to be arrogant and have an ego to the point that you believe that no matter what, this is going to work. Okay, so far, we're realizing him being a quote unquote gambler, him being insanely confident or egotistical or whatever it may be, was a good thing. So, yes, at this point, you can tell I tricked you a little bit because these are good things, I think, for entrepreneurs. Now, you can disagree. If you do, put it down in the comments if you disagree with that. But the next one is very interesting. I think a lot of us, if you're already in business, can kind of get an understanding of and probably have experience. If you haven't, and you think about going in business, it's going to happen. He had a stepfather who owned and operated an aircraft facility. He went to go help his stepfather in this business when he got out the Marines. And he noticed that it took forever for parts to get there to fix the airplane engines and do all the kind of work that they needed. And the term paper ideal came back to him. He says, you know what? I'm going to go start this. So I'm going to take my inheritance money and I am going to go start this business to overnight deliver packages because there's a big need for it. And I'm going to raise money. He raised $80 million from people he knew from Yale. It's very good to have connections like that. He raised this money. He also did something else. He also leveraged his family's wealth, their inheritance, siblings, everyone. He leveraged it for the business. I will tell you, if you go into business, to have your family involved in any way, investment, anything like that, can go wrong quick, fast, and most likely will. He ended up being sued from his own family because they were losing, again, remember, this was the time when he was losing $1 million a month. They sued him, had him in court. The family basically, probably, I don't mean to say the word so harsh, but probably hated him because their inheritance is about to go out the window and he leveraged it to do this business. They even went to the point of trying to get him kicked off the board of directors of his own company. It got really bad for him. So the other thing I think you're going to need to be able to have is the tolerance for immense pressure, for immense hurt, for immense pain. You're talking about your family members coming after you, people trying to sue you. You have to be able to withstand the pressure. That's what he was able to do. He was able to withstand the pressure. He destroyed his family dynamics. It sounds like he was a bad guy, but in actuality, this is going to happen in business. You're not going to get along with everyone in your family or your friends. It happened to me, I know personally, and it is very hard, and you have to be able to endure that. The last lesson, and then I'll tie it all together with a big bow. The last lesson, the last tale that they don't tell you about. This one I love. This is my guy. I like this dude. Again, this is all happening when the company is losing money. They were losing so much money that they came to repossess his planes. Now think about this. The way your business operates is having the planes to go to the cities, pick up the packages, bring it back to the hubs, and flying back out. They came to repossess the planes. And you know what Fred did? Fred was a little gangster. Fred told his pilots, hey, keep the planes in the air. They can't repossess them if they're in the air. So every time they came to repossess, he would keep them in the air, keep them in the air. Now, technically, that's law breaking because he owes them. So that's where that lawbreaker comes in. And this is a lesson to all you entrepreneurs out there. Everything's not going to be straight laced. Everything's not going to be totally 100% ethical. And I'm not saying try to do unethical things, but I'm saying everything's not going to be that line. Some people made that up. Them rules, somebody made that up. And those things might not align for what you need at that moment when you're not really truthfully trying to hurt anybody. You're just trying to sustain, long as you're not robbing from somebody. So he basically adjusted and bended and molded that situation by keeping the planes in the air. I've given you 4 lessons, 4 tales that a lot of people don't know about with Fred Smith. And you go like, okay, so how did he end up being successful? How did it end up working? He had to go through all this particular trauma and these stages in order to get to this point where he was able to get investment money from the same people who turned him down. That's right. The same people who made him beg and kicked him out, if they end up giving him $11 million. Why do you think they end up giving him $11 million? I'm going to tell you why. And this is the biggest lesson of this video. Because he did not surrender. Because he refused to die. He refused to give up. That's the reason why he was able to obtain $11 million more dollars. That's the reason why his family members no longer sued him. That's the reason why people got in line with him. And guess what? That 11 million ended up turning the company around, and the company started making tons of money. And we know FedEx as it is today. So you might be $11 million away. You might be $11 away. You might be one day away. Wherever you are in your journey, if you're feeling that pressure, if you have to gamble to make it happen, if you basically, you got to bend a little bit to make things happen, stay in there. Because just like Fred Smith, you too can make your dream become a success overnight. If you enjoyed it, put it in the comments. If you enjoyed it, give me them thumbs. Don't forget to check out these videos here. They'll help you out as you're on your entrepreneur journey. This is your boy J.I. Random Podcast. I'll holla at you on the other side.